It's showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, marvelers and marvelites, gather round and prepare yourselves for tonight. We journey once more into the Design Gazette. It is I, your host, the starward Crusader, and this is the show where I finally get to talk about Marvel, baby! Hit it! Boy, this has been a long time coming. Anyone who watches this channel knows we love talking about character design here, and to me, one of the genres with the best character designs have always been superheroes. In fact, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has always been on my list of games to dive into for a while now, but between my horrendous upload schedule and the fact that a 25-year-old game wasn't exactly algorithm-friendly, it just never happened. But now, thanks to the force of nature that is Marvel Rivals, it's the perfect time to talk about superheroes. The only question was, where to start? Now, I could have gone with the obvious choices like Wolverine or Spider-Man, but I liked going down the road that is less taken. So, I decided to start with the character I personally mained back in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
They call me Psylocke. That name shall do.
With her deadly training, this ninja moves like a ghost across the battlefield, cutting through enemies and breaking defenses with a single thought. Or at least that's what her bio says. Over the years, she's gone through quite a few changes, and funny enough, when I first saw Psylocke in the game, I said, who the hell is that? Because she looked nothing like her previous counterparts. But before we get any further into that story, it is only customary to honor the sacred YouTube tradition of inviting you, my dear audience, to hit that big red subscribe button. Don't forget to give the video a like, a share, and maybe even a down in the comments section below. And with all that out of the way, let's jam. Before we understand design, we have to understand some history. So let's get into it. The woman that would become Psylocke first showed up in Marvel Comics in Captain Britain number 8 back in 1976, but at the time she was just Elizabeth Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain's twin sister and more of a side character in his story. She was born with minor telepathic abilities like reading minds and sending simple thoughts, but nothing too crazy. And after spending about a decade as a B-list supporting character, she finally got pulled into the mutant side of Marvel when she was kidnapped and brainwashed. That's when she was given the codename Psylocke, but luckily the New Mutants rescued her and took her in. Then in 1987, after helping and holding her own in a brutal fight against Sabretooth, Wolverine officially invites her to join the X-Men, marking a major turning point in the character's history and giving her a place within Marvel. 2 years later, in 1989, Psylocke's biggest transformation happened in Uncanny X-Men number 256. Like any good Psylocke story, it all started with her getting kidnapped. Again. This time though, she was brainwashed and forcibly body swapped with a Japanese assassin called Kwanon. Under the hand's influence, Betsy was trained to be a deadly assassin and developed her signature psychic knife. Operating under the alias Lady Mandarin, she worked for the hand until Wolverine eventually found her and snapped her out of it. Originally, the plan was to swap Betsy and Kwanon back into their original bodies, but Jim Lee's new assassin design was such a hit that Marvel high-ups decided not to address the body swap. And so, for the next 30 years, everyone kinda just ignored the elephant in the room, while the X-Men went along pretending everything was totally fine. Sure, there were storylines that touched on the whole body swap situation, but for the most part, Betsy and Kwanon just went on living in each other's bodies, each having their own adventures, dying, and even coming back to life separately at different points. Long story short, in 2019, they finally got their original bodies back. Kwanon claimed the mantle of Psylocke, while Betsy took on the role of the new Captain Britain, still keeping some powers like a psychic knife. But even now, there are still plenty of things that don't make sense, like why Betsy kept the codename from her initial brainwash days, or how Kwanon's body somehow inherited Betsy's powers when mutant abilities are supposed to be genetic. And trust me, this is just the simplified version. I haven't even touched on the chaos involving Mojo or the Acts of Vengeance storyline. Simply put, comic books can be really complicated, but what we're looking for is what are the things that inspire the design of Psylocke in Marvel Rivals. So take all the information you just learned and toss it out the window, because almost none of it is relevant to the design of Psylocke in Marvel Rivals.
I am a long way from the forests of Kirisaki Mountain.
This version of the character is based on Demon Days, an alternate universe that blends Japanese folklore with Marvel characters, written and drawn by an artist going under the pseudonym Peach Momoko. Momoko's art is known for blending manga and comic book styles into this beautiful, almost coloring book aesthetic. In fact, her covers won so many awards that Marvel just gave her free rein to craft her own story, leading to Demon Days. In Demon Days, Psylocke is reimagined as Psy, a wandering Japanese swordswoman who wields a psychic blade. She's on a quest with her loyal wolf Logan as they roam Japan in order to hunt down the demon Orochi, which is a reimagined version of Venom. Along the way, we meet plenty of other Marvel characters with a mythological spin, and it's pretty cool to see how Momoko blends their stories into Japanese folklore.
I've fought Oni, slayed demons. This should be easy.
Sai's design is almost one-to-one with the red scarf, half-worn kimono, and exposed white sarashi, but the differences start showing up thanks to the changes Rivals makes to Sai's lore. In Demon Days, she leans more into the Ronin wandering swordsman vibe, which is why her outfit is simpler and looks more rugged, like she's been traveling light. Meanwhile, in the Rivals version, she's reworked to be more of a ninja, so her design gets a lot more armor and extra ninja tools like shurikens and the crossbow on her arms. It also explains why her katana is mounted on her back instead of a hip, as that's how ninjas would typically carry their ninjatos. But even with the ninja angle, some parts of her armor still have a bit of a futuristic feel. That's where her character story comes in to help make sense of it. In Rivals, Sai's story kicks off when the time stream entanglement yanks her out of her reality, only for her to end up kidnapped and put on display by the Collector. Because I mean, let's be real, it wouldn't be a Psylocke story without her being kidnapped, am I right? She eventually does break free alongside a few other heroes like Jeff, and makes it a mission to return to her world while helping others to find their way back too. I'd imagine during her escape she might have swiped some gear from the Collector's stash, which would explain why parts of her armor have that sleek carbon textured look. But Rivals isn't just building its own lore here. The devs, being Marvel geeks, also sneak in subtle nods and details to past designs of the character. Starting from the top, there's the ponytail. At first it seems like a stylistic choice since every comic version of Psylocke has a hair loose, but if we're looking at Marvel as a whole, there is a version of Psylocke with a ponytail, and it randomly pops up in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 of all places. She's still rocking the spandex there, but the hairstyle is surprisingly close to her Rivals counterpart. Then there's the red scarf. In Demon Days it was probably meant as a nod to a classic suit where she wears a red sash. In Rivals the scarf covers her face to give her more of a ninja look, but it also gives serious Strider Hiryu vibes, and the moment I made that connection, I knew for a fact that these devs are MVC fans. The next little detail you might notice is the red mark on her face. That actually comes straight from the mainline comics when Psylocke is almost killed by Sabretooth. Again, but gets saved by Wolverine, Doctor Strange and Archangel. They heal her using the Crimson Dawn, a mystical elixir that can bring someone back from the brink of death and also give them the ability to blend into shadows. In exchange, it leaves a red mark on the person and makes them more ruthless and aggressive. So it's basically Marvel's version of the Lazarus Pit, meaning rival Psylocke has gone through her own share of near-death experiences, and it also explains why this version of the character can become undetectable. And finally, we can't talk about powers without mentioning the abundance of butterfly motifs that are all over her design, including the texture of her kimono, the end of her scarf, the UI of her kit, and of course every time she uses her psychic abilities. What's interesting is that butterflies weren't always a big part of Psylocke's imagery, even in some of her most iconic moments, but over time they've become a signature part of her identity, and for good reason.
Too often, men prove themselves worse than demons.
In Greek, the word psyche means both soul and butterfly. That's a neat connection considering Psylocke comes from Psyche, emphasizing her telepathic powers. Comic writers ran with this using butterfly imagery to visually represent whenever she used her mental powers. Physically, it's also a perfect fit for a character as butterflies undergo transformation, and Psylocke has gone through a lot of changes. Whether it's a body swap with Quanon, her evolving powers, or her struggles with identity, it's a visual cue that ties into both her past and her growth as a character. The deepest connection, though, comes from Japanese folklore, where butterflies are believed to carry the souls of the departed to the afterlife. That symbolism fits perfectly with this version of Psylocke, since in her world she literally battles evil spirits and yokai on a daily basis. Butterflies are not just a cool visual, it also reinforces her role as a warrior dealing with the supernatural. Rivals gives us the most distilled, complete, and unique version of Psylocke we've seen so far. The biggest issue with most versions of this character has always been a lack of originality and clear vision. Even her most iconic iteration only became popular because of a skimpy ninja redesign, one that Marvel didn't even bother explaining for 30 years. As a result, she was mostly stuck as a B-list X-Men reserve. Her powers always felt a bit shallow, constantly overshadowed by other psychic mutants, and her personality flip-flopped between generic angsty warrior and generic ninja lady. To prove my point, did you know she was actually in Deadpool and Wolverine? Yeah, that background extra is just how she spent her existence as a character. But now, with both Demon Days and Rivals, it feels like Psylocke has finally been given a new lease on life. Her design is fresh, original, and instantly memorable, deeply rooted in Japanese culture and symbolism, while still respecting her origins. It's the next step in her evolution, and for the first time in a long time, she feels like a character with real depth and purpose. Hopefully, Marvel and Rivals can give her a story that'll push her mythos far into the future.
ごきげんよう。
So, now that we finally have a new and distinct version of Psylocke, what could Rivals do with her in the game itself? For costumes, we already have the Jim Lee-inspired Vengeance skin in the game, named after the storyline it comes from, though it's not an exact replica of the original since Rivals added its own twist to the design. The most notable change is the silver butterfly patterns on her boots and sword, which remind me of Irizumi Yakuza tattoos, super fitting considering she was a brainwashed criminal in that storyline. At first, I also wasn't a fan of the overly complicated neckline, but then I noticed the negative space actually forms a butterfly, and that completely blew me away. So yeah, I'd say they did a pretty solid job with the Vengeance skin. The other skin available at the time of this recording is the Blood Karyudo skin, and I swear I'm losing my mind because I know the devs are Capcom fans, and yet I haven't seen anyone point out that this is 100% a female version of M. Bison. Like, come on, she's got the hat, the crest, the color scheme, and they gave the woman with purple psychic powers the outfit of the fighting game character known for using purple psychic powers. I know I'm not crazy, this game is a prequel to Marvel vs. Capcom. Capcom glazing aside, I think it would also be a pretty cool idea to give Psylocke skins of the different mantles she's taken over the years. They could add her blue evil Lady Mandarin outfit, or go with the new Captain Britain look now that Betsy Brannock has reclaimed her original body. A retro-themed season for the game could also be pretty fun. Imagine Rivals characters rocking those 60s fits and a puffy pink Psylocke running around in the game's art style. As a side note, I would also like to take a moment to compliment the game's voice direction. Not only did they cast a Japanese VA for Psylocke, but they also gave her a British accent when she speaks English. And that is genius, because not only do you get the authentic sounding Japanese lines, but it also pays homage to the character's origins as a Brit called Betsy. But let's get back to Psy, or more specifically, the creator of Psy. We already know that Peach Momoko has been invited to design skins for other characters in the game, and I for one would like to see her version of Black Widow make an appearance. But what if they took that a step further and actually set a map in the Demon Days universe? Picture a mythological Japanese setting complete with atmospheric sakura trees, eerie yokai, and Psylocke's pet wolf Logan. The potential for twisting Marvel elements into this world is insane, and it would be a perfect way to expand her lore. Speaking of Logan, I'd love to see a team up between Psylocke and Wolverine. He's been there for almost every major turning point in the character's comic book history, so it would make sense to give them a team up that emphasizes that connection. Right now, they just have a single voice line between each other, but I really think there's potential for these characters to interact in more unique ways. Plus, you can never go wrong with Wolverine in Japan. And that is a wrap on episode 20 of the Design Gazette. If you enjoyed our time together, be sure to help me out by liking, sharing, and commenting down below on some of your favorite details about Psylocke. Links in the description if you want to buy me a coffee, and if you're new around here, hi, I'm the starward Crusader, and I have a whole series of Design Gazettes and story recaps for you to enjoy by hitting that big red subscribe button. This was my first Rivals episode, and honestly, it was a pretty chill experience, especially considering I had almost a century of Psylocke history to dig through. Writing the script was actually easier than my Starl episodes, where most of my time is spent actually investigating what inspired a character. Plus, I have some personal history with Psylocke, as she was on my team in Marvel vs. Capcom, and I definitely annoyed my brother by spamming. To this day, that sound is pure comfort to my heart. But now, I want to hear from you. What character designs in Marvel Rivals stands out to you the most, and which character should I cover next? The floor is yours. And with all that said, may your journey lead you ever starward.